there were 3 fathers, sons, on the green. There were uncles and cousins. So when something happened to somebody in this town, everybody felt it. Now, today, it's tough sometimes for somebody dressed like me to go in and out of history today or 200 years ago or what have you. But today, or yesterday, there was a shooting down in Florida, correct? How many folks were hurt? Okay, I didn't get that at all. So there were 2 fatalities, I thought 5 or maybe 6. And that's quite a big deal. What was the population of that school? From a percentage point of view, it's incredibly small. And I'm not trying to say a death doesn't matter. That is not the point at all. What happened here on this green? In the morning, 8 men are killed, 10 are wounded. That's over 10% of the male population of the entire town, the adult males. Do you think that would make it onto the news? Think of today, if 10% of the adult males of Lexington were killed. Do you think that would make the news? That's not newsworthy. That's cataclysmic to the fabric of this society. And that's what happened. So this is a really big deal for what these men did. So often, I don't know how you guys think. I don't want to make value judgments, but I try to make observations that might be interesting. But what is so important to you that you give your life for? The guys that must have done this screen clearly answered that question. So Jedediah Monroe was a relatively modest farmer. He was in the bottom third of the tax roll, so he wasn't going to be a trillionaire. His wife Abigail and he had 10 children. Not all of them lived to adulthood. So he had a farm fairly far called Scotland, Rose. Yeah, there was all those. So he lived in what was called Scotland, right out of town.
Yeah, but
so the question is, it was a fairly reasonable hike. So he might have spent the night in a tavern with some of the other militia. The Parker said you could either go home or stick around. He might have been out here. It was a crisp day. It was about 40 degrees with a brisk west wind. And it had rained the night before, so it was not anywhere near so nice as it is here now. So we don't know for sure. He may have been walking in from his farm. Don't know. There's no primary documentation to say. The fact of the matter was, he was on the green when the British column arrived. That's a, believe it or not, a multi-part question. First of all, these are muskets, they're smooth bore, so basically these are shotguns. That's what was here. Because of the way the farmers used this, between 80 and 90% of all this land was cleared. There were no trees in the 18th century. Today here in New England, it's about 70% reforested. It's a totally different landscape then. So there was not large game here. There was only waterfowl, which is why these are shotguns. So this particular musket that I have, a Fowler's piece, is modeled after one that went to war on April 19th. So this is custom made. I can assure you it's not inexpensive. It means a lot to me because I know where it was made in real life. I also know who made it as well. But I know who the gunsmith was who made this musket 250 plus years ago. Some of the men on the green, all these muskets are real firearms. They work, they will shoot ball. We will not be doing that today, obviously. It'll be blanks, just powder. But these are all functional muskets. So most of us do as much as we can to look 100% accurate. So I don't know if anybody's looking, but everything you see on me is hand sewn. There is not a machine worked on anything I wear. It is all done with a needle and thread because that's the way they did it. And there's no better way to honor these folks than to try to emulate the way they thought, the way they acted, the way they dressed, their material culture. So what you see in me is everything is handmade. Most of it by me. My wife refused to help, so I had no choice. I had to learn to sew myself. So So I am dressed according to the militia law of October 29, 1774, where all men at the age of 16 to 60 must be in the militia. So one of the things you probably don't appreciate is that all British soldiers are volunteers. All American soldiers are conscripts. I think most people would think it's the other way around. It is not. That's one of those historic anomalies. You've got to read the history to understand that. So I am now told to be in the Army, and here's what you will do. You will have a hat. You will have a blanket. You will have a knapsack. You will have a water bottle or canteen suitable to hold a quart of water. You will have a firelock. You will have a firelock with a steel rammer. Oops, I am breaking the law. I have a wooden rammer, but that's what I own. That's what's going to show up. I must supply a pound of lead and a pound of powder, suitable for making musket balls that fit the musket. I have to have extra powder that I can carry in a powder horn, and I've got a cartouche box that I can roll cartridges, pre-rolled cartridges with a measured amount of powder and a musket ball, so I don't have to fool around with trying to get it. I just take a cartridge and dump it down the barrel, ram it down, and I'm ready to go. I also have to have a secondary arm, because when it rains, do these things work when it rains? Not very well. They didn't work then and they don't work now, and they really don't work in the rain. So you had to have a secondary arm. You either had a bayonet, your scabbard, or a belt axe or a sword. Most men in farms did not have swords. It's not a farm implement. So most men either had a bayonet or a belt axe. And that, there it is. That's the militia law, and that's how I'm dressed.
How many rounds did you carry?
Well, it varied, of course, because depending on the diameter of your musket, if you were issued or you had a pound of lead, you could either get 20 balls or maybe 14, it all depended on what the caliber was. But you usually tried to have, I would just wing it. The British Army had a requirement, and you could talk to some of those guys later. But for us, I'd be happy if I had 40 or 50 rounds. This cartridge box is suitable to carry 19, so I'd probably have 19 there, and then have some extra lead and some extra powder, so I could probably get up to 40 without much trouble. Skate suit. I'm invulnerable. I'm going to be here forever now.
Talking stuff like that.
I made it to 75, and I'm still here, so I'm going to keep talking. If you're talking about the battle, it is incredibly short. You're going to see the British Army come over here. They're going to display across the green here. My compatriots and I are going to be displayed here. There's going to be a little bit of back and forth, screaming and yelling and all sorts of posturing. At that point, the British Army gets a little irritated at us. We have distinct orders from Captain Parker that we are not to engage with these guys. There's a propaganda war, and we're not going to be the ones to fire the first shot. The British have the same orders. The problem is they've got a different. What are they here defending? Do they care anything about the Green or the Common in Lexington? Probably not. I don't know if you know, but when they started the march from Boston, the first thing they did, instead of going over the bridges, they were marched through the river because they didn't want to wake the populace with the footfalls on the wooden bridges. So they were marched through the river. So most of the British soldiers are wet up to their waist, and they start marching from Boston all the way up to the river. You think you might be a tad on the irritated side? So here you have a bunch of men. I'll ask you a question. What do you think the age of the average British soldier is?
19.
I hear 20. Did somebody else say
19.
19? The average was 34.
34.
Why is it 34? There's only one way in the British Army. You volunteer, and there's only one way out of the British Army. You die, or you become an invalid, or you desert. Other than that, you're in for life. So the average of the British soldier was 34. These were not kids. But they also weren't seasoned soldiers. Many of them had never seen battle. A good deal of them did police work in Scotland and Ireland. They just weren't soldiers in the sense that we might think today. So they were nervous, they were irritated.
Really quick, folks. After the battle, the Minutemen will come over and be available to you for sound, for photos.
Who's supposed to be getting directions?
Pool footage is vendor pool, there's no media pool for this. Fissel is the vendor. They will give you all the footage later on. It's a 500 gigabyte drive they want you to have. It's a large drive.
Jeff here in Lexington.
Third thing, the governor will be available after the 11 o'clock event for media, general media availability. Any logistical questions?
I've been able to give
All
some
right, thank you.
lectures to folks.
Thank you.
But there was some
Everyone get that from here? All
right. So
If you are looking to get the
This is really
cool
meaningful
footage,
for me
the
to do
vendor
this because
Fissel is doing a
people walk away
jumbotron.
going, I didn't
That
know
is the
that.
video
I'm
audio
going to think
tool.
about this stuff.
They will give you the
That's
footage. You have to
why
have
I
a
do it.
500 or bigger gigabyte drive, or they'll give you a link to download it for the rest of the weekend. The governor will be available at 11 o'clock event for sound. The Minutemen will come over here as they're doing. After the battle, they will come over and be available for sound and photos. Okay?
One of the reasons
Any
I
questions
did this is
logistically?
I was a naval officer in Vietnam. And
Governor will be over here at the media area after the event. No leaning over the railing during the events, and no approaching the railing in front of the riser. Good. Thank you very much. It's not posted. It will be sent individually to the differential media, so we don't have to conserve a project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just missed what you said.
So the governor will be at 11 after.
So we're the redcoats.
So we just went to the area. After everyone goes through, the redcoats will come over for sound. Now I think some of them also if you have 500 gigabytes, you can get.
Are you picking up anything on your?
Otherwise, the link will be sent out for the next week or so to download some.
Okay, great, thank you.
Get the cards out from my pocket.
Never, ever let somebody know you see him do something. Yeah. Two ways to do something, the right way or again. And that's it. Only two ways. Don't ever bother doing it again the right way. He does, yeah. Another one of my favorite military slogans.
You like jigsaw puzzles?
Die, then quit. Not quit. No, never have to quit. Nobody makes you quit. You.
I feel like now you're putting us. It's okay.
I don't try to make value judgments. I observe what works for people and what doesn't work for people. Try to do stuff that works for people. There's no, why do things that don't help people? It doesn't seem to make sense. Again? No, I did work for them. My badge number was 65453. I still remember my badge number there. That was a long time ago.
I was watching something and I was really like.
I met Stan and Ken Olsen. I knew both of those guys.
I used to work at that.
You're bringing back some real memories here. You got to be careful, or I'm going to start crying or something awful.
I worked with that for years.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I was up
Ken,
yesterday and I was like, all
like
right.
so many other guys,
Third, I was like trying to like track it and think of like when.
blinders on, and he just didn't see that 1 and 1 could actually be something better. Yeah, he turned down the opportunity to put those tools next to distributed, next to your desk machines, mini computers. He didn't see the way to put them on top of the desk. He was offered, by the way, some people came in and pitched that. He said, no.
One of the marketing groups built their own machine corridor.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Were you here last year?
I'm here all the years.
Yeah. We turned pictures. We turned pictures from last year with the big
Good. I won't be able to see for the rest of the day. Thank you. I needed that. All right. Now, ringing of the bell is the signal that Parker had given to the folks to start ringing that bell to resolve the militia. That he said, "Go. You don't have to stay here on the common. You can take life easy until we get word that the British column is coming a lot closer." So that's what the bell starts. Because remember what was on this common? It's not like what you see today. There's a big belfry over there, a schoolhouse, and then a meeting house. So this was really crowded. So when the British column came, they had to sort of weave themselves in and around. And one of the companies actually messed up and came down Bedford Road instead of going, they're supposed to go down Congress.
Squeeze in here.
So this was a coat rodeo. There were mistakes made like crazy on both sides.
Who are you covering with?
The Lexington Observer.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
that's history.
How about you?
Washington Post.
Oh, no way.
I have a story this morning about Solomon Brown being the possible triggerman of the revolution.
Arlington 250.
Monotony.
Minutemen.
I tracked down the owner of his home, and he, after the revolution, he ended up moving to New Haven, Vermont, a small village up near Montpelier. And I tracked down people who lived there, including the person that owns this home now, and the legend of him up there. And
North Cambridge.
everything. It's pretty fascinating.
So North Cambridge, and then it became its own town of Minutemen. And then there was one guy who wanted to crusade to change the town's name to Arlington in honor of Arlington, Virginia. And also just
After the First World War.
After the First World War, and didn't want it to be called Minutemen anymore. And eventually, enough people either agreed or didn't feel like fighting anymore that it got changed.
Well, naming conventions are quite often. You want to see a town start tearing itself apart. Try messing around with the names.
Yeah.
But there's really actually a funny example of that. Salem, Massachusetts, was currently Salem, some of the real Salem and what's currently Salem today,
The British are officially late.
They were Salem Town and Salem Village.
I saw
Right,
when I was
there's a
pulling in,
whole-
some
I
people
used to
kind
live
of
in
like
Andover,
walking,
part of the world.
or some people were running, but some people in like red coats. It looked like they were reenactors, like speed walking down the street to get
Probably
here.
getting ready for us to assemble.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there's some sort of. Yes, so ringing the bell is not just you feel like it. Parker ordered the bell to be rung so that the minute the militia gather to figure out what is going to happen because nobody knows. He'd been sending out scouts over the night that kept coming back and said, we'll see. What the heck? Which is why he sent everybody home or stay in the bunker to wait to see what happens. He's now got new information that something is afoot. He wants to
But I wish I was.
So Lexington voted to have a minute company, but never did it. So technically speaking, none of us is in this.
The story I really wanted to do, but I couldn't get anybody interested in, was the battle after the battle. How the towns of Lexington, Concord argued over who fired first.
Oh, they still do.
Oh, yeah. Well, in 1875, when they're going to have the 100th anniversary, Grant was the president, and he almost did not come to this because there was such controversy about the people of Concord saying, they were arguing they wanted Congress to pass a law that said, Concord fired first. No, it was Lexington fired first. Finally, they just backed away from it and said, we don't know who fired first.
Even in some of the local broadcast news they've done leading up to this. They'll like throw in digs.
Oh, yeah.
And we fired first.
Yeah.
So I was going to say another.
Well, it's interesting that when I did the Solomon Brown, it's like for 50 years nobody knows who fired first. The Americans kept saying it was the British kept saying it was the Americans. And you look at the depositions and you read the correspondence back and forth, and there's no clear evidence whatsoever. But about 50 years later, a couple of the eyewitnesses start to say, well, it was this guy, we saw something, Solomon Brown. I talked to him. He said he fired and blah, blah, blah. And he was like an 18-year-old militiaman living here in Lexington. And he later claimed that he was over by Buckman's Tavern and fired. You go up to New Haven, Vermont, and although there's no real, nothing there, his grave's up there, but there's nothing there that really says it, that he was the guy. It's all over town that he was the man that fired. He told everyone that he was the one who fired first at the Revolution. There's no proof that he did, but it's an interesting story nonetheless about how it all comes about and unveiled.
So people say nobody knows who fired the first shot. British officer, his after action report said
These guys are amazing. They did a
American
reenactment
jumped
of
behind the stone wall,
like preparing for the battle, and like they do not break character.
Oh yeah.
You think they're just going back and forth, but they're actually like reenacting in preparation for the battle.
It is pretty amazing, yeah.
And there's the youngest is 16, and the oldest I think is probably
That guy
going to
hadn't done
70s or maybe 80s.
there would have been no fight in the ring because
Really
they would not have been loaded. So the guy who started this was a young man from the town, about a quarter mile that way, that jumped from behind a stone wall and scared the British. And that's in the
It's pretty
documentation.
amazing because when you start to sift through all the evidence and everything, it's obviously the red coats respond to something and they open fire. They were all jittery, like he was saying. It's like they were marching all night. They're cold, they're wet, they're hungry, they're tired, and something happens, and they just open up and start blasting. And then you read the depositions that were taken by the Americans, and it's like, oh yeah, there was a British officers fired first. The guy had a gun, and they were saying, fire, you guys, fire. And but then you read what the British, what Pitcairn was saying, and then one of his lieutenant. They were saying this, that the first shots came from near Buckman Tavern, is what they claim. And so the Americans are trying to, they want to tip the propaganda war in their favor.
Right.
And the British are like trying to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
So did Brown fire first? No one knows. But the likelihood is that something happened over by Buckman's Tavern, and it looks like there was more than just him there. I mean, he claimed he was the first to fire, but there could have been 3 or 4 guys over there that started firing at first, because Pitcairn says that his horse was hit 2 times, and that a soldier was wounded. So there's at least three people firing right there. So.
Wow. So this is that.
Apparently, and there's some. I'm told that when this all begins, when the British show up and everything, that there will be a gunshot from off somewhere else where we don't see it, which will start the whole thing.
Beginning with the front rank from left to right. Sound your name. Benjamin Wellington.
Captain John Parker. Men, we have not heard from ourselves any confirmation as to the movement of the river. We want to be dismissed, but the ready to muster at the sound of the drum. I shall return back to town until later. Anyone entering the town must first discharge the muster. Company, hail, honey! Restore! Silence! Shoulder! Silence! Prepare to be dismissed by the red rope! Thank you!
Misfire.
Good morning. Thank you for coming to witness our portrayal of the first battle of the American Revolution. My name is Henry Liu, past Captain Commanding of the Lexington Minutemen. On behalf of the Lexington Minutemen and all the people of Lexington, it is a pleasure to welcome you here on this special day. Precisely 250 years ago, on the dawn of April 19, 1775, this common became the birthplace of American liberty. On the field today are the Lexington Minutemen, commanded by Captain Steve Cole, the Ladies Association of Revolutionary America, His Majesty's 10th Regiment of Foot, the 4th, 5th, and 52nd Regiment Light Infantry Companies, the 1st Foot Guards, and the 16th Light Dragoons. We also have waiting units, visiting units, in the column of British regulars from England and from across the country, including California, to be part of this event. Now,
according to one historian,
let's set the stage. It is now
Lexington people were just
1775.
militiamen. They did not have
There
a
are no
Minuteman
paved roads,
detachment.
flagpole,
I'm
or
told.
statue.
Oh,
There are no
So I don't know if
Starlink
that's
satellites
correct or not.
ChatGPT. This is a small rural town west of Boston, settled as Cambridge Farms in 1642, and incorporated as the town of Lexington in 1713. In the years leading up to 1775, British Parliament imposed various taxes on its colonies, and tensions between England and the colonies grew steadily. King George III kept military forces in Boston to support the royal governor and help contain colonists' resentment. In December 1773, the Lexington Militia, also known as the Lexington Training Band, was under the command of Captain John Parker. They reaffirmed their resolve to fight for freedom and liberty by taking this pledge. We trust in God, that should the state of our affairs require it, we shall be ready to sacrifice our estates and everything dear in life, yea, in life itself, in support of the common cause. By 1774, virtually every town's militia within 50 miles of Boston took similar oaths. A few of the towns had also become storage depots for gunpowder and military supplies. Concord, located just a few miles west of here, was one of those towns. On the night of April 18, hundreds of British regulars traveled by boat from Boston across the Charles River to neighboring Cambridge, where they awaited distribution of rations before marching off to Concord. That delay allowed Paul Revere and William Dawes, who set out separately on horseback from Boston, to get a head start of the regular column. In addition to the head start, the regulars' steady pace of march once they got moving was no match for the speed of Revere and Dawes on horseback, who were swiftly moving through the darkness to alert local militia captains and others along the route that the British regulars were on the march. Unlike popular belief, they did not shout out, "The British are coming," but rather, "The regulars are out." Revere arrived in Lexington around midnight, Dawes shortly thereafter, at the home of Reverend Jonas Clark, a short distance away from this colony. Also at Clark's home were two house guests, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, who recently attended meetings of the Massachusetts Provincial Congress in Concord. Revere Dawes delivered news from Joseph Warren in the Boston Committee of Safety that the regulars would seek and arrest the Constitution. Upon receiving the news about the regulars' advance, Captain Parker ordered the sounding of the alarm bell in the belfry, which originally stood clear of the lawn, to notify the townspeople and militia of the imminent danger. What you saw earlier was a representation of this alarm, with Captain Parker assembling his men to warn them of the news he just received about the approaching column. After notifying his men, Parker allowed those living close by to return to their homes. Others remained out to common, and several retired Buckman Tavern, which you can still see standing nearby. Those going inside discharged their weapons before going inside, as directed by captains. While the men of Captain Parker's company assembled on the town common, some women remained behind to safeguard their homes or to watch over loved ones who were unable to leave. But many of the women of Lexington evacuated their homes to keep their families safe from the impending danger of the advancing British colony. As you are about to witness, women woke their children in the dead of night, hid valuables, carried what they could with them, and set off with their children to get out of harm's way. As they moved toward safety, many undoubtedly bid farewell to their fathers, husbands, brothers, and sons, who were assembled on the common, not knowing if they would see them again. Listen closely, and you may hear those mothers waking their children.
Awake, Joshua. Come now, you must arise. Listen to me. Father has left to muster on the common with the other townsmen. The king's soldiers is marching from Boston. We must leave the house. Come, up, young son. Get dressed. Mother, I want to go be the father. Lead your folk here, son. Dress quickly. And then I want you to gather the silver in the trunk and bury it at the stone wall behind the barn. Bury it? Why? To be sure no one thinks they can take it. I will get your brothers and sisters ready. Go now!
Wake up, Sally. Wake up. You must be going. The alarm ringers came through a short time ago, and they warned us that the regulars was marching from Boston. Are coming right here to Lexington.
Where are they coming, Mama?
Hush now. We know their business, but we must get out of harm's way. Come, let's make haste, little.
Get up here? Yeah, sure. No, I can shoot over top of you.
Anna, Lydia, wait now. Come! Come! Put on your mask. Then pack the bread and any other food that we can take with us. We must leave the house, and I know not for how long.
And we're not following Samuel. Will you stay?
Yes, I'm sure they can take care of themselves, Anna. We must make haste, so we're well out of the way when the king's troops arrive. I will ready to leave. Lydia, take down the looking glass and hide it under the mat.
Yes, Mother.
And Anna, get the money that's in the desk, then hide it among the potatoes in the root cellar. Quickly now, daughter. The soldiers will be here soon.
But Mother, where will we go?
Down the lane back of the house and across the meadow to the woodlot, so the other side. Quickly now!
Awake, Joshua. Come now, you must arise. Listen.
Then it started raining.
like view? Does Vikram have a good view, do you know? I don't know where he is, he could jump in here.
That would be me. I'd be out here waiting for the British, and my wife would be coming out and saying, "What the hell are you doing out here? I thought I told you to stay home."
Stay inside. I would be the wife running onto the field. Everybody go home, for God's sake.
between the men and women going to Lexington. They understood that each had an important role to play during this fearful moment of uncertainty. With great courage, the women of Lexington did all they could do to protect their homes and families in the face of great danger. Throughout the night, Parker sent scouts on horseback towards Boston to watch for the movement of the regulars. One of the riders, Thaddeus Bowman, still remained nearby, awaiting orders from Captain Parker.
Nathan, go back to the stables and inform Thaddeus Bowman that I wish to see him immediately. I'm very concerned. I have not heard from any of the scouts that were sent out earlier. I have a feeling the regulars are getting very close. Please ride east, post haste down the avenue to see where the redcoats are. I do not want to be surprised by their arrival. We must be ready.
We shall do our very best, Captain.
Godspeed, Thaddeus.
Must be on the way.
Earlier in the morning, after warning Hancock and Adams and riding to the west, Revere, Dawes, and local physician Samuel Prescott, whom they picked up along their travels, spied a patrol of British officers on horseback heading towards Lincoln. The patrol also spotted the riders and captured Revere. Shortly thereafter, they heard gunfire coming from Lexington, which was actually the men in Parker's company discharging their weapons as instructed by Captain Parker before entering Buckingham Town. Revere asserted to his captors that the gunfire was from hundreds of approaching militia, and his captors released him without his force. Revere returned by foot to Lexington, where Hancock and Adams were preparing to evacuate to Captain Reed's home in Woburn 2nd Parish near Burlington, and away from the column of British regulars heading this way. As we begin reenactment, this is the scene. Some militia members are on the common, while others have returned home or are around Buckingham Town, coming and going. Inside, Captain Parker anxiously awaits any news of the regulars or their whereabouts. You will see one of Parker's scouts, Thaddeus Bowman, return on horseback to Buckingham Town to warn Captain Parker that the regulars were indeed on their way and very close. Parker will order the firing of the alarm guns and William Diamond to sound the alarm on his drum. and take a position on the common. With the regulars approaching from the east, and as the flesh line were common, Hancock remembered that his trunk was left behind at Buckham Tavern. This trunk contained his private papers, including names and other information of many revolutionaries of the time. Revere volunteered to retrieve this trunk. As the regulars advanced onto the common, Parker's men show a mixed emotions. Confusion as the men were still arriving, anger for the growing tensions within the colony, fear that the reality standing in front of them, and uncertainty of what will happen next. Several of the militia pushed to the front of the others tried to control the fear. As the size of the forest-bearing mound rose in size, one of Parker's men cries out, "There are so few of us, it is folly to stand here." It is at this time that Captain Parker will attempt to steady his men and issues this command. Do not fire unless fired upon. Let the troops pass by, and do not molest them without they be first. You can find a 19th century interpretation of this famous command engraved on a stone marker on the northeast side of the common. As the regulars ready themselves in battle formation, British officers advance forward towards Parker's company and demand that the rebels disperse. Using this time of unrest to their advantage, the men from Woburn and Lexington, who were captured earlier in the night as they spied on the regulars' advance, will try to make their escape. Suddenly, a shot will ring out. To this day, we do not know who fired first, and the first armed confrontation of the American Revolution will begin.
Officially sunrise.
What's happening? What is it that is? The regulars are coming down the road. They're only a half mile away. Assistant provincial stores? No. It's from here and later it is. Coming! Handle! Arms! Rest your arms! Show your violence! Coming! Roll! Steady, man. Both down. That's what John's making us see. Companies, support, finance. Company, show me your vitals. detachment! Tuck! Take your detachment! Surround that rabble and disarm them! You are not to fire! Is that clear? Tuck! Carry it on! Turn to the right! Battalion! March! March! Lay down your arms. Lay down your arms. You will not be here for my time. Then you will have you all. Battalion, fix your bayonets. Shoulder out. Officers call! Oh, not fire! Deputy, control that man! Are they firing first? We fire first, sir. Sir, the country's alarmed. We should go back to work. Very good. Sir, we must have Boston. Very good, gentlemen. Our orders are to march to Concord, and I am determined to obey them. We march to Concord. We turn around. Sir. Battalion! Primary! Blue!
Caleb Harrington, Jonathan Harrington Jr., Robert McGraw, Isaac Lutzey, Jonas Parker, Asahel Ford. These casualties were placed in the meeting house that morning by their family, neighbors, and comrades. Elijah Sanderson was reported, "I returned to the meeting house and saw to the dead. I assisted in carrying some of the dead into the meeting house. Later in the day, the dead were moved and buried in a shallow grave covered with heaps of brush to hide them from the regulars should they return." By the time the regulars arrived with Robert, militias from there and surrounding communities were waiting in defiance of the regulars' advance. Upon meeting with this resolve, regulars were forced to retreat back to Boston. Meanwhile, realizing that British troops will return once again to Lexington, the women, children, elderly, and sick of the town will be forced to flee to safety again, and the roads of Lexington became clogged with women and children, unsure of where to go. Some Lexington women remained behind, risking their lives by exposing themselves again to the dangers of war. Rebecca Fest and her family would flee as the regulars approached, and moments later, hand-to-hand combat were brought outside of their homestead. Anna Monroe would wait until the last minute to begin the family attack. Her then 4-year-old daughter would later recall how her mother carried her 2 younger siblings and led her to safety as homes burned around her and the British artillery fired her warning gun. Eventually, Lexington civilians successfully fled from the coming fight and watched from nearby hills as the horrors of war unfolded before them. Later in the morning, Captain Parker and the Reverend Jonas Clark will rally the defeated militia company and convince the men of Lexington to re-enter the battle. Captain Parker and his men, now over 100 strong, will assemble on this very common and march to war. With the smell of gunpowder still in the air, their neighbors and brothers dead in the wake of the morning battle, and knowing the size of the force they faced that morning, this small militia company bravely marched toward Concord to meet the British colony once again. According to local tradition, Company fighter Jonathan Harrington played the Jacobite tune, "The White Cockade," as they marched toward the retreating British colony. What you are about to witness is Parker rallying his men, which took place only but a few short hours after that bloody fight on the common.
William. Sound the assembly. Good afternoon. Form the company. Compasses and music post. Sergeant Monroe, read the orders.
Resolved on December 16, 1774, by the Massachusetts Provincial Congress, John Hancock, President. Each soldier to provide himself with a good firearm, a steel, wood or iron ramrod, and a spring for sand, a worm, a frying wire and brush, a bayonet, scissors in his side, a scabbard and belt thereof, a cutting sword or tomahawk or hatchet, a cartridge box holding 15 rounds, at least, 100 buckshots, 6 splints, 1 pound of powder, 40 lead balls fitted to the gun, a knapsack and blanket, a canteen or wooden bottle to hold 1 quart of water. Failure to obey this resolution shall result in the assessment of a fine. Sir?
Company, handle, arm. Rest your breath. Pile up. Shoulder your pile up. Lieutenant Sid. Inspect the men. Make sure they're properly equipped and armed.
Company has been inspected, now to the best of their ability.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Company, rest your pilots. Order your pilots. Company, rest. Reverend Clark.
Brothers, Patriots, it was only this morning that 8 men lay dead, and many others gravely wounded on this very ground. The innocent blood of our brethren makes this soil a hallowed place for future generations, for today it shall become a fertile field that will yield a rich harvest of freedom. As you set forth to right the unspeakable wrongs of this day, to set your bravery against the brutality that was the tyrannical actions of his majesty's troops, it is important to bear witness to the justice of your cause. Where was the king's justice? Where was the king's righteousness? The desires and nature of a monarch are made known by the works of his servants, and thus it is clear whether that monarch is deserving of the loyalty and duty of his subjects. What are we to say when a band of the king's troops, that those sons of oppression and violence, inflict a murderous blow not once but many times upon those who are quitting the field to let them leave unmolested? The lust of domination appears no longer in disguise, but with open face. The liberties and the rights of all Englishmen were by this murderous action set not and made a mockery. Provided you and your martyred brethren stand here on the common but a few hours past, if not to bear witness by presenting your very bodies, that your liberties, your homes, even their lives were inviolate, even in the face of overwhelming force. The king's troops were the first to fight, and that is clear. The first blood spilled was ours, not theirs. Having had our natural and constitutional rights thus abrogated, the source of those rights no longer lies with the king and parliament. It lies with us, with America. We are, in truth, Americans. The first to claim the name and the identity that will grow from this place into the outer reaches of the human imagination, to the sacred limits of our immortal souls. Whatever we have been before, we are Americans now. Clear it is that maintaining that identity will require a fusion of blood and sacrifice of life. Well, your minister this morning needs conflict, brothers. It needs war. Others may have fought it, some may have wished for it, most of us fear it, but we cannot return to the passion of things that were. Our presence on the common today and our 8 martyred brethren will sanctify this ground, proclaim to the world, and mostly to king and parliament, that Americans are prepared to defend and preserve their liberties and rights, even at the cost of rebellion. This for us is very interesting unknown. For we do not know what sacrifices will be required of us, and how many months or years of struggle lie before us. But on this we can be sure beyond doubt that in the struggle between tyranny and liberty, our God is always the God of liberty. For he is the God who set free his people from slavery in Egypt and into the land of the promise. And he fulfilled that promise generations later in the coming of our Redeemer Christ, who taught us with his own law that in life and in death and beyond death, that God's kingdom will thrive. And that the ways of God are not only the ways of righteousness and truth, but of life eternal and our lives right now. Of a love that is limitless and divine, and sacrificial love like yours, for family, for neighbors, for countries. Trust in God that sooner or later victory is certain. His Majesty's troops are fighting far from home for the purpose of keeping the past upon his throne. Whatever lies dear to them lies 3,000 miles at their backs. What is dear to us, family, home, liberty, our country, lies close at hand. And that is a strength that cannot be measured in numbers. We march from the shadows of the past into the fair light of the future, and that is freedom. Beyond thrones, beyond kings, beyond tyrants who would invade our communities and destroy our homes and kill our citizens and threaten our families and seek to control our country. Whatever trials lie before us, our end is sure. It is liberty. Through history, remember our actions, our sacrifice. Will the world learn the lesson of this day, that tyranny will not be tolerated, that injustice will be resisted with courage and resilience, that all people deserve to be free and treated with compassion? That the power of God is on the side of the good, the innocent, and the just. Lord, let it be so. So is the high purpose that you walk forward into this day's battle. You go beyond all that is ordinary, beyond fear of peril, beyond things that were into things that will be, that must be. So shall you face the foe with courage and faith, God's teaching, God's blessing than mine.
And many of you were here this morning when the bloody bats made their appearance and rushed furiously upon us. Without any provocation, we received heavy and close fire from them. They killed 8 of our party and continued to fire on us until we dispersed off the parade ground. Now we know the troops will march back to our village again. They will try to kill us, pillage our homes, and harm our families. Yes, you need to leave everything behind to escape with your lives. But our liberties, our rights as Englishmen, is now in great danger of being replaced by the shackles of slavery. What was formerly merely a suspicion that Parliament wished to enslave us has now become a reality. Our wives, mothers, daughters, children, and sick parents have all fled in fear, waiting for death to come. They are scared, helpless, and believe the damn lobsters will murder all of us. Will we do nothing to protect those we love? 18 months ago, we pledged to sacrifice everything, including our lives, in support of the common cause. Men, the time has come to honor that pledge. For our families, our homes, everything we hold dear, we must return to this fight. We will take advantage of walls and fences, and with vigor and haste, we shall pursue them relentlessly. We will cut them off and make them our prisoners. They will regret the day they entered Lexington. We will keep General Gaines and Yankees fight! We're marching to Pine Hill, near the Nelson and Hastings homes. We'll set up an ambush there and warmly greet the regulars as they return to power.
Captain, I suggest we take advantage of the large boulders of the heavy tree line on Nelson Park in order to protect our flank.
Agreed, Lieutenant. When we arrive, I think we'll soon take that position. Company, handle up! Restore! Left! Shoulder! Left! Company will advance 5 files from the right to the right face!
the American Revolution. 7 of these fallen are buried here, moved on the 60th anniversary of the battle, April 1835, to the knoll on the west side of the common marked by the granite columns, which includes this phrase: "Sacred to liberty and the rights of man and hero, the freedom and independence of America, sealed and defended with the blood of her sons." This monument, originally set in place on July 4th, 1799, is the oldest memorial of the Revolutionary War, and why we honor them by treating this common as hallowed ground. Before we close this event, I would like to thank the hard work of the men and women of the Lexington Police, Fire, and Public Works Departments, the Lexington History Museum, the Town Celebrations Committee, and our elected officials for their tireless efforts throughout the night and for many years supporting this event. And this year, I would also like to thank those on the Lexington 250 Commission, co-mentors, and our media partners at NBC Boston. The Lexington Minutemen will be returning here shortly after we conclude. If you wish to meet them, they will be available to meet at the east end of the common between the Minutemen statue and the flagpole. The rest of the common must be clear so that DPW can begin preparations for other events